In July of 2007, Judy and I bought some property in Ecuador. It's just south of the equator, about 6 miles from the Pacific Ocean, directly on the River Chone. We bought it from our friend Alfredo, and this house is one that one of his workmen used to live on, so it had to be moved. We have 3,000 square meters, and this will be the view from our main house when it's completed. You can see the tide is out in this picture, and this gives you an idea of the what the river will look like. This is the view on the other side, which shows Bahia. That's our boat in the background. The river is about a mile wide at this point. The property fronting the river also had a pond on it, most of which belonged to Alfredo. And so Alfredo and both of us decided that we'd fill the pond in. Fortunately, the guy across the street let us dig the dirt out of his place, and then we made a deal with a local trucking company to truck in 1,500 dump truck loads of fill to fill in that pond. This took several months. It was slow going, and there was a lot of equipment breakdowns, but eventually the guys got it done. The price was $5 per truckload, and that included the services of a payloader to smooth the fill out. Now it's almost completely filled, so what used to be a pond looks more like a football field or an empty lot. At this point, this is all that's remaining, so we bought some more fill in. The next thing on the agenda was to carve a driveway down this hill that was on the property, on the other end of the property from the river, next to the road. So we had some trees and shrubs that had to be cut down, and then we got the payloader up on the top, and he started carving a road right down through the hill. This whole thing took the better part of a day, plus it seems hard to believe, but as the driveway started getting built, we realized that we needed more fill. We had to widen it out. This is what it looked like when it was almost done, and then we brought more fill in. So it seems kind of counterproductive, but after all that, we finally got the driveway done. You've probably seen enough of dump trucks to last you for a while. This is a truck that was delivering supplies that got stuck in the soft sand and had to be pushed out by the guys. There was a certain amount of tree trimming that had to be done, and then the guys built this bodega or storehouse out of bamboo. We used that to store the concrete and the tools and all the supplies. We also hired a guard to live in this bodega 24 hours a day. So in addition to all the supplies, we made a bed for him, and he stays in there. These red tiles is a roofing material that we used on the buildings. We actually built 3 buildings. This first one is the caretaker's house. And the guys dug 1 meter square holes, and then hand bent rebar, this reinforcing steel, and built columns, set them in the holes around some rocks, and that started the basic foundation for the caretaker's house. They made the forms out of wood, and everything was very carefully measured with leveling plumb bobs and strings. They used a cement mixer that they rented from Alfredo, but it's still a very, very labor-intensive way to make concrete. Now the columns are joined with a framework of reinforced concrete to make tie the foundations together and provide the basis for pouring the floor. All this work was done under a contract price. We had one maestro or master worker that supervised the whole operation, and he hired his own guys and provided all his own equipment. And we had agreed on price of how much we would pay him for each hole that was dug and each cubic feet of concrete that was poured in the foundation, each square meter of concrete that went into building the walls and the brick and so on. So everything was all very carefully negotiated up front, so there were absolutely no surprises, and we were very pleased with the work that they did. Now we're having sand delivered, a necessary ingredient to the concrete. All the framework that the guys worked on was made out of bamboo, so they'd lash a bunch of bamboo poles together, use them, and then where they needed to, they'd move them and use them over again. This is the floor being poured by hand. There's a reinforcing wire mesh that's laid down in the floor. And then the walls are made out of brick. We bought a lot of bricks at 8 cents a piece. Now the brick has been cemented in place between the columns to form the walls.
Feeding the animals.
Judy's feeding one of the local denizens. That's Mandy the cow. The water pipes are preset into the concrete, and oh, here's the cow again. And at this point the brick has been plastered over with concrete. This is the way they do it. It's called enlosido. They mix concrete and then plaster it right over the bricks to make a smooth wall. It looks deceptively simple, but actually it's quite a fine art. This is the bamboo structure that one of the guys lived in, and we actually had to move that. So it was disassembled and reassembled on a new foundation, another part of the property. This is the cistern, or excuse me, the septic tank being built. And this is the cistern. It's made out of reinforced concrete. It's built up on the top of the hill by the driveway. Now this is the view of the house as it looked before the roof went on. All the walls are in place. That's the view toward the river. Next we started on the shop in the garage. And the same procedure, the holes were dug, the reinforced concrete columns were placed in the holes, and then concrete was poured to make the columns. So first we did the caretaker's house, and then we started on the garage, and then we'll move into the caretaker's house eventually before we start the main house. Now the guys are putting the roof on. Roof is made out of local wood, and everything was stained beforehand and treated with insect preservative. And then the guys very carefully put the roof in place, plastered around the beams. And after this they put those red tile sheets on top. This is the upstairs balcony where we'll have a small open loft with a couple twin beds in there for kids. That's what it looked like, the balcony looked like when it was done. And then this is the tile that was laid in the floor. Judy is inspecting it to make sure everything's okay. We did kind of a parquet effect on the porch. Then it was time to get the water supplied to our property. So we have a meter on the cistern, and then the concrete was cut going outside our property out to the sidewalk, and here it's cut across our neighbor's driveway, and then by hand the guys chiseled. If you count 5 telephone poles down, that's how far they had to chisel to reach the main pipe. It's 250 meters. Then finally the local water department showed up, and they cut into the water pipe when it still had 150 or so pounds of pressure in it, and spliced in a T and joined our pipe to the main supply that also supplies our neighbors. This is Francisco, our guard, and also one of our workers. This is Johnny, who works with us. This is Linda, a local cruiser that's been helping us with a lot of the finish work. These are the windows. The windows were all made out of the local wood and then put in place. This is what the interior looks like now. This is Judy with our dog Sisa, the guard dog. This is a pet tarantula that Alfredo brought down, and these are a couple of volunteer teachers. This is one of the salads that Judy made for our treat. And this is Linda with a couple more salads. Now this is what the house looks like at this point, and we've still got a long ways to go, but we'll probably move in a couple more months.